Hey, friends, this is Pastor Justin, and I hope this message finds all of you safe and healthy and well. Hey, today I want to tell you about a good friend of mine named Jane Dyer. Jane was a good friend to me as well as a good friend to a lot of you. She was a longtime church member who passed away this past Thursday, March 26th. She had a good long life. She lived for 83 years. She was married for 56 years to a man named Jeff. Jeff was a sweet, tender-hearted man who passed away in 2013, actually on Valentine's Day. But even after Jeff passed away, Jane was faithful and true. She could be found at church every single Sunday. She went to the 11 o'clock service. She sat on the pulpit side of the sanctuary about a third of the way back. You could always count on Jane being there. The last time that I spent with Jane, or the last good time that I spent with Jane before she got sick and went into the hospital, was about 2 months ago. Jane was a member of this lunch bunch. There's a group of ladies in the church. They're a little bit older, and they're all widows, and they go out to lunch together every single week. So as soon as the benediction is pronounced and people leave the sanctuary for lunch, they all go to lunch together, and it's a sweet thing. This week I got an invitation to this illustrious lunch group, and it was because Jane's son Jay was in town. Jay lives in London, England, and he doesn't often get to visit Nashville, but he was in town this week and he was going to go to lunch with his mom and her friends. And Jane just wanted to show Jay off to everyone she knew, to all of her friends and anyone who would listen to her. It was pretty apparent to me that she was so proud of Jay and loved him so much. And she felt the same way about her whole family, about her older son, Jeff Jr., and about her daughter, Jenny, about her four grandkids, about her nieces and nephews, and about all of her friends that she turned into family. And I count myself and my wife and my two kids in that lucky number. Jane loved my family, and we loved her back. She asked about my wife all the time. She wanted to see pictures of the kids all the time. Even when I went to visit Jane in the hospital not long ago, she was asking to see pictures of my kids. She loved us, and we loved her. I think one of the reasons why we loved each other so much is that there is adoption in both of our families, so we had that in common. Um, when I told my wife that Jane had passed away just last week, my wife's face fell. She was honestly upset at this news, visibly upset, and I had not seen her so upset at a person's passing since the passing of Elizabeth Regan about 9 or 10 months ago. Well, about 6 weeks ago, Jane went into the hospital with some troubling symptoms, and it was discovered that she had a brain tumor, a cancerous brain tumor called glioblastoma. The doctors were able to do some treatment to give her a little bit of time, but she ended up passing away this past Thursday. I want to tell you about what happened this past Saturday when we had the graveside burial. I had the privilege of officiating this graveside burial, and under normal circumstances, there would be a funeral or a celebration of life service at the church. Lots of people would come to the sanctuary. There'd be a large visitation where people from the church and the community could greet the family and extend their condolences. And then after all of that, there would be a graveside burial. Well, because of the circumstances in which we all live right now with COVID-19, there have been some pretty strict restrictions on the number of people who can gather in one place. And so we didn't have a celebration of life service. We didn't have a funeral per se. All we had was a graveside burial. And it happened this past Saturday afternoon. I went to the funeral home and I drove up to the graveside, to the cemetery. And I got out of the car and I began to greet the family. And then I began talking with the representative from the funeral home, the funeral director. And he pretty quickly told me that there were too many people there. Even though there was only family there, even though there was only close family there, I mean, the only people who were there were Jane's kids and Jane's grandkids and a couple of nieces and nephews who were very close to her. There were altogether 13. I think I was the 13th person. And the funeral director told us that we could not begin the graveside burial until a few people agreed to sit in their cars. Because to have 13 people exceeded the 10-person limit. So we quickly made arrangements for a few people to sit in their cars while we did this graveside burial. And it occurred to me that there are a lot of people who are sick, who are suffering, and even dying in this time. And that's bad enough to go through that type of hardship. But what's made this time so interesting and so hard is that now people are going through these things alone. And so it's bad enough to lose your mother or your grandmother to cancer, but now you have to grieve alone. Whereas before, you could be literally embraced by the community and they could share the loss with you and they could support you and buoy you up in your time of trial. And so, friends, here is what I want us to do. I have an idea, and I want all of you to participate if you are willing. I'm going to provide you with the contact information for Jane's kids, and I want you to be in touch with them. I want you to send them emails or phone calls or text messages or write them a good old-fashioned letter and tell them that you love them, that you are with them, and that they are not alone. Tell them that you knew Jane, that you loved Jane. If you can and if you're willing, share a story or a memory or your favorite personal quality about Jane. But just let them know that you are grieving with them and that they are not alone in this time of trial and hardship. Let them know that you are with them. And in fact, I'm just asking you to be yourselves because Woodmont Christian Church is the most caring, compassionate, and generous congregation that I have ever known. And so now I just want Woodmont to be Woodmont, now for Jane Dyer's family. So check out the information that I'm going to provide for you, the contact info for her family, and let them know that you are with them, that you are for them, and that you love them. Friends, I love you, and I will be in touch with you again very soon. Until then, stay safe and be well.